Hello, Lemonade Legend listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in today to our podcast. Lemonade Legend is where we amplify the voice of individuals who have lemonade stories, or else they're just helping people to find their lemonade stories. So it's all about finding your voice and being a voice and being heard. And today I have as my guest, Jeannine Riant. Did I say your last name right?
Yeah, Riant. But it always goes between Riant and Riant.
I usually make a point of making sure that that I've got the name right, and then sometimes I forget to check ahead of time. So
it's all good.
I'm going to let you go into your business and what you do. I know you have both a story and you are also helping people to find their lemonade. So you kind of have, you hit both sides of that. So go ahead and introduce yourself, a little bit about your company, and then we'll go into some deeper conversation from there.
All right. Well, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Michelle. I'm Jeannine, as you mentioned, and I am an Akashic connector. I help people to dive in and really hone in on what they need to discover within themselves, what needs to let go, what needs to expand, what is really itching to come out and to just be seen, be heard. I help women to stand in their power, to own who they are, and to really decide, make those conscious decisions, make those sometimes hard, sometimes easy decisions, but from the heart, moving from the heart space. And so I offer different energy sessions. I offer one-on-one sessions. I offer retreats and workshops. And I'm here to support, definitely.
That sounds great. And I have to tell you, I have so many questions, I'm not even sure where to begin. You always want things to go with this nice, easy flow, and, but I'm just like going, woo, I want to ask all these different things. So here's where I'll start first. So I see this kind of shift from being, a business coach, how to run your business, be able to do the, the traditional profit and loss reports, and, how do you track this and do this and promote this? And now I'm seeing, more of that tapping into the inner soul type of thing. And I think that's great. I mean, but I'm going to play just a little bit of a devil's advocate, a tiny bit, because I guess I want to, how did you come about finding that this was, your heart space and your zone of genius?
I think the universe guided me to it. And truly, I know that sounds a little woohoo out there for some people, maybe, but it's that divine guidance. And for me, it was learning to trust. It was that's been my lesson for the last 3 years. I've just, I can dive into my story a bit to help kind of make it all make sense. But the last 3 years ago, I went through a separation and I came back to a financial crisis, and like a huge financial crisis, and I was left to deal with it all on my own. And so what had to happen was I needed to trust. I needed to trust that I could figure it out. I needed to trust that I could piece things together. I needed to trust that when I got at the end of the month, not being able to pay the rent, that something was going to happen and I was able to pay the rent. And it literally has been how I have been moving through life in the last 3 years. Just when I think it's all going to fall apart, I sit and I trust and I listen within and I take those aligned actions. It's not because I'm not doing anything. I'm working. I'm constantly moving forward. I went back to teaching, which is what I didn't want to do, but I knew I needed to stand on my own 2 feet again. And I'm moving through those processes, but I'm also working with the inner space, and it's the inner space and that aligned action that has made it all come together. And to trust the universe, to trust myself, and to know that if I'm okay and not letting the mental crap, negative space get to me and bring me down that rabbit hole, and stay in that aligned space, I can and will be okay. And it's been proven to me every time.
You make it sound so easy.
It's not always fun, and it's not always easy, but that's when you need to trust.
Okay, so here's that little piece of devil's advocate, and I'm doing this so that you have an opportunity to really share how you shine in this space. So that makes sense to me, because I do believe in alignment. I do believe, that's why I'm so passionate about sharing stories, because I think that part of it, you need to go back and, you know, embrace yourself and love yourself and be at peace with, you know, everything that has gone past.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my version of you know, having to align yourself with, so I do embrace that. Here's kind of my question is twofold. Right now we're in the midst of the coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
which is throwing a lot of people off. Like they might have felt like they were sailing along just fine. And yeah, okay. So you're going to be able to address this. So I guess here's where I want you to try to address this, because I'm trying to think like other people out there who are tuning in might be thinking. And I'm thinking they might be going, okay, Jeannine, yeah, I'm sorry, but we've got this just demon thing out here. We got the world falling apart, you know, I can't even go out and buy toilet paper. And you just want me to trust and just align myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's my devil's advocate I'm throwing at you.
I hear you. And I remember being in a circle once where I was leading a circle, and I was inviting the women to trust and go within. And when they some people shared, one lady shared, she's like, I was listening to your voice, and in the back of my head, I was saying, no, Jeannine, it's not true. It's not true. I can't trust. It doesn't work that way. And she was battling that thought in her head. And so I get it. And believe me, I've battled it a few times along the way. But when like I said, I have this work that I do, and I've been needing to supplement with the teaching. And obviously schools in our area, I'm thinking most areas, schools are closed. And so I went down, because I'm only substituting, I have no income. So I've gone from having some income to no income that's consistent, from working with people and inviting them in to work on one-on-one. So that's not possible because they can't come one-on-one with me in my home because of what's happening. And so I am forced to really hone in the online space. Where's my trust factor in this? It's one, I've learned to ask for support. So in my world, there's 3 pillars. There's support, trust, and aligned action. I'm constantly in the aligned action. Okay, what's my next step? And to let go the overwhelm of, holy shit, like what happens now? This is my real world right now. Like, what do I do? So I can succumb to fear, which is the universe is giving us a test, and call it whatever you wish, God, universe, creator, whatever you want to call it. We are in this space of, how well are we going to connect? How are we going to be able to dive in and just be and surrender? And yes, I'm saying all these words, and I hear that same lady saying, but it's not true. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But we have to really look, okay, here's our fear space. Here's where we're diving in. I went there last week. I'm like, well, whatever. I'm just going to lose everything. I'm just going to lose it all because there's no other way. But then I'm like, okay, no, there's other ways. I can take this fear and transmute it to love. And that may be something that people are like, what do you mean transmute it to love? Like, what does that mean? How do you do that? We're invited to go in. We're invited to stop. We're invited to settle. We're invited to check in, to meditate, to slow down. And this is where all this will percolate. It will all bubble up to the surface. And I've seen it in the past when I was teaching and having people meditate at the end, and this lady just wiggling and giggling and just not able to stop those thoughts. So it is a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen. I mean, I've been in the energy world for 15 years, just personally, and doing my thing and working at it. And I've been really put to the test these last 3, and I've decided to jump in. I've decided to listen. And every time I listen, it moves ahead. And I ask, and I always have 2 university girls, and I'm like, ask. The only thing people can say is no. You have to be willing to ask for support. You have to be willing to just stop and say, okay, I can't go this alone in this space right here, right now. I can, but I'm probably going to crash. So to support, and then to trust, and then to take that next one step. What is my next step right now? Last week, when I was in that kind of, okay, what do I do? Where's the fear? Was to say, okay, no, let me sit and meditate and move in love. I didn't do that for 24 hours, 7, but I did do that in that moment for maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And it calmed me, brought me back to my ground. And then I moved into a different space. Okay, now what's my next step? Because to take that next step when you're in that fear space, it's not the right place to be when you want to take your next steps. The next steps need to come from a place of inner calmness, guidance, and peace. And it's truly important. So I do a work called whole body focusing, where we truly just let the body answer. That's all we do. There's no mind involved. We listen to the body, I guide you in, and your body has all the answers. So I use all those techniques. Now I know not everybody has those techniques, but to find someone who has those techniques, there's your support. There's something that you can help you move through it. I'm getting the nudge, and it's not just like I've been asked since we first met, and you asked me to be on a podcast interview. I've had 4 people ask me since then to go on a podcast interview. And I've also been asked to go on a radio interview. Like, it just happened, bing, bang, boom, boom, within the 2 weeks. But I've also been saying to myself, I should start a podcast for the last 5 years. What is the universe telling me to do right now? Podcast. Let people know, help people in this time when they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. Just be the love that they need. And so that's my next step. I don't know what it's going to give me. I don't know what it's going to bring me. But I know that it resonates deeply, and that I have a voice to give to the people. And so that's where I'm going to start. I do lives, I do that kind of thing, but I have the time now. I don't need to do lesson plans. I don't need to do anything that creates more just busyness. It's time for me. And so listening in those moments is important.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the movement and the growth that you're seeing. I think that's great. And so while you were talking, well, a lot of things. I multitask in my brain all the time. So, as you're talking, I'm listening, but I got things going on that I'm thinking about. And one of the things is yesterday I did kind of a special podcast out of my regular schedule, just because I was talking to somebody about depression, because that's something real right now that people are experiencing maybe for the first time, and they don't even recognize it. It's like, what is it? Why can't I get out of bed? Yeah. And so we wanted to get that out as a timely message. But one of the things we talked about, and I think that this might put it in the layman's term, so to speak, is a little bit about what you're saying, is that we're all to some degree control freaks. And I think it's about letting go of that control, about, again, putting it out to the universe, giving it to God, doing wherever that higher power is. I think it begins with giving up the control.
Mm-hmm. And if I can change that, just in my perspective, it's not giving up, it's surrendering. Because sometimes when people say surrendering, well, if I surrender, I'm giving up. Here's the white flag. No, yeah. It's surrendering what no longer serves you, and surrendering what is driving you crazy. So surrender, we have to feel the emotions. When I say last week I was in fear, I was really talking to my girls about, and I'm like, okay, Jeannine, just stop creating that ball that everybody else is creating on their own. But to be in that fear, what do? You have to let it rise. You can't just say, okay, go, bye, you're done. Let's stuff it and snuff it and make sure it doesn't exist anymore. We have to honor that those feelings exist, whether it's through tears, whether it's through stomping, whether it's through just, all right, I hear you, let me feel. What is that emotion? Is it sadness? Is it grief? Is it whatever? As we dive deeper into that, we have to let that rise. But we don't want to play and stay and mull over and keep going in it, how do we have, what kind of coping skills do we get, do we use, do we learn, do we access to, okay, there it is, I honor you, I know you're there, we had to move through fear at one point in our lives, but we're not there right now, we can choose to be in this space, and then moving through that. So I just, yeah, it's the surrender to, without the giving up, and owning what comes up and listening to what comes up, but not staying in it. Like it's easy in words.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, the words are important. And a lot of times this comes out in my podcast because I'm talking to the expert in their space. So I don't know all the right words. And so it's enlightening to me. I hope it is for our listeners and viewers as well. But yeah, a simple word can make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. So I have been working on, because I am a control freak, and I've really been working on it. So now I'm going to shift my word over to surrendering. But I do think this is really timely, which is interesting because we were supposed to talk, what was it, last week, 10 days ago?
Yeah.
Losing track of time.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, it was just, it didn't work. And I almost feel like, you know, we were being told to come on now, because now we're much more in the midst of all this that's going on. And what I'm hearing as you're talking is that it'll be the innovative and the creative and those who are willing to think out of the box and do things a little bit differently that will come out of this ahead. And I think what that means to me is, you know, a lot of people have business coaches. They're great. I believe in them. I have one. But this is going to take a different approach than just your traditional, where do you go from here? You know, how do you move your business in light of all this kind of thing? Because everybody's getting shook up, and probably we need to be shook up. I'm sorry to say that, but maybe we do, you know? But so now people need to really shift their ways of thinking and do it a different way. And so this may be your time to really shine in what you do, because maybe it's not all about just the numbers and the business and the marketing side of things. Let's start thinking about what's going on in here.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. And it's not that this part is not good. It's that it has to connect to the heart space. And the movement to, you know, to me, aligned action is what's moving in the heart space. What are the nudges? What needs to be done, said? How is it moving in you? And where does the aligned space come from? Or the aligned action is, okay, so now that I know what I want to do, let me move into that aligned space through, okay, what's the next step? What's the actionable next step? Instead of saying, okay, well, I want to get there and this is here, and it's bombardment of overwhelm of next steps, and nothing is aligning with what's in my heart. Okay, I'm going to do that, but really, that just to get out of bed and do that is like, like, you know? And all these people, I really think, and I know this is just a thought, it's not, I'm going to say it, but the universe, Mama Gaia, the Mother Earth, is like, all these people who are in these jobs that they don't like, there is an open door right now to say, in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, am I going back? Am I going to go back into this space that I grudgingly go to every morning, when I have actually had 1, 2, 3, 4 months to stop and listen and look in? And something else is calling me? Are you going to completely ignore that nudge that's been trying to get your attention, and now it's getting your attention, and go back to that? Or are you just saying, all right, I'm done. Here are my boundaries. It's time for something else. Yeah.
And that truly where trust does come in. I along with a lot of other things, but I mean, you just can't go into that unknown without having a trust in yourself and in God and the universe. So I use God. So we all know that everybody has their, but you know, that's my language. So keeping in mind that we have a certain time frame, I want to make sure we cover a lot of things. So I want to talk about the I have to look at my note because I'm gonna Akashic. I say it right, Akashic
Yes.
record reading. But I'm saying that because I don't want to get off track. But because first I want to say how difficult or how easy has it been for you to transition more to an online space as opposed to personal one-on-one?
I've been working little by little within both realms of a physical job, or if you wish, as in the substitute teaching world, and moving my space into getting off ground. So I truly want to, and have been, like, again, the podcast. So I'm really moved towards that online. I do host retreats and workshops. So I do love the retreat space, like that intimate, personal women retreat space. That is something that I'll never give up. I love them. But I am looking to, like, the lives. I love Facebook lives. I love coming on and just speaking whatever needs to be said. And that's the way I flow. I just kind of listen to what needs to be said, and I come on, and there's a message for someone out there somewhere.
Because I want anyone tuning in to understand that, that it doesn't need to be, a physical connection, and that you are available
Absolutely.
to pretty much anyone, because are you in Nova Scotia?
I am, Nova Scotia,
okay.
Canada.
I wanted to make sure. I knew you were Eastern Canada, but I don't know my geography that well, but I was pretty sure that was your space. I know you're out there in the beautiful, albeit cold.
Snowy today, yes, I know.
All right, so I don't know. I can see in the summertime when it's like 190 degrees here in Phoenix that I might just head your way.
Yeah.
And go for that retreat if we're allowed to, get together at that
kidding.
point.
But absolutely, but even just to kind of come back to what you were saying about, yes, the internet space, it's easy for me to host like an Akashic record reading or whole body focusing. All those modalities can be done through distance, and they're just as effective. So yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm glad we made that clear. So let's go to the Akashic record reading.
Yep.
And because that's new to me, I no clue. I'm turning this 100% over to you to explain what that is. And yeah, and I'm going to try not to interrupt with my ignorant question.
No. There's never an ignorant question. So the Akashic record reading, what I like to say to people who have no idea is, so imagine a ball of energy up here, and imagine that just like that's where I go. So I have a protocol that I follow. I have a book. It's a grounded modality, but with the energy. So it's not just like, woo, me going in woo land and people thinking that, oh yeah, she's just making this up. I'm not. I'm really connecting to a space. The Akashic has been talked about in the Bible, millions, like it's been around for years, eons of years. And so imagine it as an energetic space. And in that energetic space, you can either look at it as a book and a library filled with books, and each book belongs to one person. I learned it as a tapestry. So each tapestry belongs to one person. And in that book or tapestry, there are past lives that we've lived on earth. Now, Akashic believes in past lives. Not everybody does, and that's okay. But so when I look into the Akashic, I go and find your book, let's say for ease of understanding. I find your book and I gather a whole bunch of information. Everything that you've brought into this lifetime, from 1, 2, or 3 past lives. And I always give the example because this one was the one that was most poignant to me. I first started off, and it was, I think, my 8th reading, somewhere along there. And I didn't know this lady. We had done a distance reading from the States to Canada. And what I do is I go into the records first, and I gather all kinds of information. I gather if you brought in spells, curses, anything, programs, subconscious programmings, programs of fear, programs of anxiety, programs of sadness, all kinds of programs. So do you have negative spirit guides following that you've asked to help cope through this lifetime? There's a whole bunch of information that I gather. And then I look into the past lives at the end, what ones they want me to bring forth. And so I had brought in this past life that was her in that lifetime in a cult, being very abused and not being able to escape as a woman. And it was very intense. And I sat to myself and I thought, I can't tell her this, like, this is too intense. And something came over me and said, no, this is your work. This is what you do. This is how you are going to present this to her. So I presented it to her because I gathered the information. It takes me about an hour and a half or so to gather. And then I meet with the person for an hour. And in this lifetime, at age 15, she was in a cult. She was being abused and she escaped. She had literally brought in that life into this life. And her lesson was to move through it. For other people, it's, you know, a relationship gone wrong in that past lifetime with a lover, but in this lifetime, it's between a parent and her or him. So I always say, look at the essence of what I've brought in and what you've brought in. And then together, when we move through that hour together, we're clearing information, bringing stuff to the forefront. And what we're doing is we're bringing the subconsciousness to consciousness. And when you bring subconsciousness to consciousness, then you can deal with it. You know what you're dealing with. So if you're bringing in a pattern of, you've brought in a pattern of anger, and yeah, I always get angry. I just want to lash out at people. It's like, but then there's an understanding. Okay, so that's how that all evolved, came forth, and I've brought it in here. Maybe you don't even know that that's happening, but by talking about it and bringing that program to the forefront, then it's up to you to decide, okay, oh, there's that pattern again. There's that feel. What can I do differently? I know it's there. I'm conscious of it now. Now I can't say, oh, I didn't know, or I'm not aware. I am aware. It's up to me to choose to do something differently or not. So for many people, it's affirming, it's confirming. For some, it just blows their mind. For some, it's like, oh, this makes so much sense now. I didn't understand why I felt this way, or why that was happening. Or so it's pretty powerful as a reading, in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell, and it does sound like there's a lot more to it than that. But so that's really intriguing. I just have to say, just to add a little levity, I've always kind of joked about saying, I think in my past life, I must have dealt with starvation, because I'm all about food. Not that I overeat, but like I cook for the masses, even when it's like, you know, it's like I'm having a few people over, and it's like I'm feeding the neighborhood, and I'm just so focused on, and even now, it was like, I didn't go out and hoard, but I was like, what can I get and have in my pantry or my freezer that's not gonna go bad, you know, just so that, you know, I'm prepared, you know?
Yeah.
Now, having said that, to laugh a little bit, what about people who just can't grasp onto or accept the past life? Okay, because it's Christian, so we are talking about where my space is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to that person? Because is that going to like put a block, you know, to you trying to get into this, or how do you make them feel comfortable that this is still something that they can go through and not step outside of their beliefs?
It has to be, well, to me, I don't try and convince people. So if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate. Okay. And I can't, like, and that's why I say it, because I'm very clear that, yes, we talk about past lives. And I know for some people that's not a thing, and that's okay. Like, there's no judgment. It is what it is, right? So the soul, the Akashic soul, I've only had one person where they could not be read. And it was because I had asked that person, do you want me to read you? Can I practice? And they said, yeah, sure. But they weren't ready to hear the information. Okay. And so there's questions that I do ask, and the soul is like, no, it's not going to happen. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. And that's great. You know, that's perfect, because, you know, I know there are people out there just going to go past lives. Ooh, you know, I would like to believe in that, just because it seems like a cool thing. I would like to have the images, you know, I don't know. I was just like Victorian, you know, damsel maybe the white knight came but I'm making light of it, and I apologize. I don't mean to, but I just think that's an intriguing thought.
Yeah, and I think people need to be ready when they come for an Akashic. It's because they're called to it.
Yeah.
It's not something you just, hey, I bought you a certificate to go to a soul reading. Like, it's something that the person, to me, needs to be ready to come and do it.
Well, and I think there's so many people out there right now that are really exploring their spirituality. I think there's a lot of people who don't even know what their belief is. And I totally support that, it shouldn't be driven into you, or you are this because you've been raised this, or, so that's probably a great opportunity too for somebody who just isn't really grounded in their spirituality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even for someone to come, and it's like I said, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of information. What you do with it, you can just come in because you're curious and see and find out, and then you're going to go, yeah, okay, cool, that was fine. And but those who really who do the clearings and who move forward and who start changing things, like it's a powerful experience. So it really truly is what you're feeling inside of you, and if you're called to connect and see what it's about.
That's awesome. So we're going to have to wrap this up in a few minutes. I know we could talk probably for hours. I think we talked a long time when we were just on the phone with each other.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did. However, we're going to make sure that, anyone who wants to get connected with you can, and that you are available to have these conversations. And so first off, your website is?
It's on the making, but right now it's fullyaligned.com. Okay. So to fully align, and if it's still kind of in the creation stage, but yes.
That's a beautiful website. So are you going to rebrand, or are you staying under that name?
No, I'm staying there. I just have to make sure that I have all the domains, and it's just kind of finalizing all those pieces. So I'm hopeful that it all sticks.
But if somebody goes to the website, they can get directly to you, right?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Because I find that's easier than going through the whole litany of Facebook, so.
And Facebook is just my name, Jeannine Riant.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you are foundable.
Yes.
That's my new word. And then I know that you're going to be offering a free gift, and we'll have a link available for that. Did you want to share what that is at this time?
Yeah, it's an ebook, and it's Me Time Without the Guilt. And it's something that I wrote. It's about 20 pages long, and there's a few, I think there's 3 main pieces of information you can move through and use those techniques to kind of help, because women, and I usually talk to women mostly, but as women, guilt is something that we need to move through, and to accept that we are who we are, and there's no guilt in that. So.
Oh, no kidding. I think even in that just brings to mind a lady I've been talking to, and she's going to be in my next book. She's talking about divorce, which is not an uncommon thing. But what's unique about her story too is how she had to discover forgiveness, not of just her ex-husband, but herself. Because how many people go through this process of divorce, and it's all about the spouse?
Yes. And
trying to, put the blame, or I forgive him. But she realized, it's like, I didn't always respond well.
It takes 2 to tango.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. And so she's got a great story just because of that. But that when you were talking about guilt, that just because, and I think if you don't forgive yourself for your part in something, in a relationship or whatever, then that sort of manifests itself into like a guilt, and then just sort of stays there and eats at you. Yeah. So that's pretty
and
cool.
our guilt from our childhood and upbringing and the whole.
And as a mother, I will be guilty forever. So I'll look forward to your book, because I would like to tap into that. And I think what you're doing is some pretty extraordinary things. So and I remember reading on your website, you have a lot of testimonials about your voice, and you do have a very calming and soothing voice. You should be a podcast host.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So having said that, I think we're up on our time, but I thank you so much, Jeannine, for being a part of this. And, you know, bringing into this current environment, you know, some hope, some peace, some calm, you know, a space to go to try to rid yourself if you're having a tough time. Give Jeannine a call.
Yeah.
You
Reach
know,
out, please do.
Just, you know, a phone call sometimes, just, you know, you find out if it's the right connection for you.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, we'll make sure we have your information posted along with the YouTube video. And with that, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you for tuning in and listening. And just remember, the Lemonade Legend is here to share your story. So if you're interested in being a podcast guest, reach out to me. I'd love to have you. So thank you, Jeannine. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.